a deck by Noel Arthur Heimpel. It's a beautiful deck. Yeah, it's a very new deck, actually. It was created in 2017, and it's got this really beautiful, like, intentional sigil work on the back of it, and this really nice palette. This deck is a gender neutral deck, so there are no kings and queens in this deck. There's no high priestess. There's no high priest. Like, they decided to use gender neutral language for each card, which I super appreciate because nowadays it's like totally relevant. The art is also full size, which I also adore. The stories blend and bleed into each other so beautifully, really, really well. Um, the Just getting out your cards here, if you'll excuse me for a moment. You actually have 3 birth cards because your number is a 2, um, because you're 11, right? So 2 plus 9 is the Justice card is actually your birth card, but then you have 2 other cards that are considered your teacher cards because they both reduce to 2 as well. And those 2 cards are Judgment and the High Priestess. So first I'm going to talk about your actual birth card, which is the number 11. And for you, that would be the Justice card. In this deck, looks like this. It's a beautiful balance of masculine and feminine energy. I hope that this made the camera big enough for everybody to be able to see these a little bit better, because I just really love this deck. I hope it shows it off. When I think of someone who has Justice as their birth card, this tells me about someone who is very balanced, obviously. Someone who seeks balance, who looks for, who has a good natural compass. Someone who understands seeing the problems from all different angles. Someone who is circumspect in that way. The sense that I get is that you're somebody who likes to feel things through before making big decisions. You have a tendency to weigh things. You have a tendency to weigh your options, and therefore indecision could be one of your big problems. If this is your birth card, for sure, indecision is going to be a hard one because it's especially for those small things. It's like inconsequential. Those things are going to be like, this doesn't make a difference. Like, why should I care that much about the decision that I make here? But you always end up battling with yourself because that decision is important, but it's not important in the way that you expect it to be important. So with this Justice card, basically the lesson that you can learn from it, being your birth card, is to be a little bit more passive about your justice. Justice is not always active. Sometimes it's about balancing the scales and just achieving just the right ratio. Not necessarily being swift acting and using your sword to cut somebody down super fast just because they've done something wrong. Make sure that when you act with integrity. That's a big important part of this card too. This number has an interesting history though, because 11 has also been associated with strength according to Crowleyan numbering. Before Rider and Waite created their numbering system, Crowley actually called the Justice card an 8. And instead of Justice, the 11 was strength. So he switched those two during his time when he created the Thoth deck. And because of that, sometimes your number is going to be strength, which means your healing is going to, strength. Okay, so you're, you're a Leo. Yeah. So wow, that's a cool thing to have. Like your strength Leo card is actually one of your cards depending on what deck you're working with. So that's a cool significator to have. That's really interesting. I imagine it means that you're very balanced as I don't want to say performer, but someone who's in the spotlight. Someone who's like important, but in a way that's not overstated. In a way that does get credit, but not put too much emphasis on. Your teacher cards now, after Justice, after your, we learn about your balance, your sense of circumspection, your ability to look at things objectively and weigh them and figure out what works right. You have a good natural compass. You can tell when people are lying to you, probably, maybe even through like a physical response. This tells me that your teacher cards are the other cards that reduce to a 2 since you were 11. So your other teachers would be the High Priestess and also Judgment, which is 20. So let's talk about the High Priestess first. In this deck, it's not called the High Priestess because there's no gendered language. So in this deck, it's the Diviner, and her image is absolutely beautiful. Most people have seen this one already. We already showed this once on the stream. Getting a lot of repeats today, but that's fine. So when your teacher deck is or when your teacher card is the High Priestess, basically what this means is that you need to learn more from your intuition. You need to trust your gut more. You need to trust your feelings more. When she's around, she's basically telling you like, hey, you have access to all the knowledge, all the secrets, all that hidden stuff. You can absolutely access it. All you need to do is become more self-aware. You have all the keys that you need. You have all the tools that you need. You just need to close your eyes and start doing some more self-seeking, some soul-searching, people would call it, right? The High Priestess or the Diviner is part of the physical realm. It's very much a card of passivity, right? Reception, receiving the information. Oftentimes, because you're such a balanced person when it comes to your logic and your intuition, that sometimes your logic might take over, especially because you're a Leo. You might go back and forth. You might go back and forth between like your emotional intuition side taking over, or sometimes your logical side playing into it more. So I imagine that's kind of a struggle finding the balance between those two. But the message, like definitely one of the lessons about the High Priestess or the Diviner is to allow yourself to receive those messages. Don't doubt it when you receive that intuitive blip, when you receive information, when you receive that download. Don't reject it. Don't say, oh, I'm not gonna trust this, I don't get it, and then just push it off and not really integrate it, not really incorporate it. Make sure that you spend some time reflecting on it. At least write it down. Maybe something came to you for a specific reason, but maybe not for today. For instance, your dreams are probably really important, and if you're not writing them down, you're doing yourself a disservice. Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, then you need to listen to your intuition if it's usually right. So I'm glad you're starting to realize that. That's good. Um, Thanks so much for getting your reading today, by the way. This is really fun. I like doing this. It's really good. I also have quite an itch to teach, so let me know if there's anything that you're like curious about, symbol-wise or cards-wise. Um, the other teacher that you have, aside from your intuition and your own personal uh, vision, right? Your higher self, so to speak, the passive receiving side of you. You've lived many lives, and I get the sense that you're kind of a, people say old soul. There's really no other better way to put it, but I think of someone who has been around the block, someone who's experienced quite a bit. And when you don't give your intuition that credence, then you kind of lose a connection with yourself when you're denying your knowledge based on your own experiences. And that's where intuition comes from, though. It comes from your own personal experiences, whether they be in this lifetime, in this dimension, or in another one. You've had that experience, and your knowledge of that experience is valid. Therefore, it's important to use it when you're making these decisions and not just chuck that information out the window. Okay, so lean in more to your gut feelings. My advice for a Leo trying to follow their intuition would be to do something that makes you feel sparkly. Very cool. Oh, that's good. That's really good. So speaking of past lives, you'll probably really like this next part. The last card that you have that is your teacher card is the Judgment card. The Judgment card has to do with past lives. It has to do with karmic cycles. It's the 20th major arcana card, which is why it's your other teacher, because it also reduces to a 2. And in this deck, it's not called Judgment. Really happy about that, because Judgment's kind of an old concept. Usually the card is depicted with like Archangel Gabriel with like a trumpet, and it's very biblical. There's like people coming out of like coffins from the ocean, and they're like, I don't know. It's a little much when you look at it. You're like, whoa, this big calling, this big moment, I'm gonna experience that. Kinda, but not really. So this deck takes that energy and it transforms it into a card called Awakening. It's a much better use of the phrase considering our modern times. I don't think people really say the day of judgment anymore, but I think when you say awakening, people fully understand what you're talking about. So your teacher is your personal awakening. I think you've had a long journey, frankly, and I think that you've had many lives with many other long journeys. And the sense that I'm getting is that you're finally coming into the light. You're finally coming to realize that your biggest teacher is karma itself. Which, by the way, interestingly, the symbol above that person's head in this card, I know it's really small. It's a little Scorpio symbol. So death, life, and rebirth. Right? We have to remember that. Awakening is about coming true to your higher self, uniting your actions and your vision, right? Your intentions with your uh, projection. The thing that you want to become real, actions, alignment. There we go. Alignment with action and intention. Okay, there we go. Um, this card has to do with finding your true purpose, hearing the clarion call, kind of, knowing that you're in the right place at the right time, recognizing that there are relationships in your life that have more significance than you give them credit for, I think is really important, because there are many relationships in your life that are very much powerful beyond even your understanding. So try to, recognize those relationships more. Be grateful for them. Be grateful for what you're learning from them. Ultimately, this card leads to the world. So remember that when you come out of the cave, when you are awoken, when you are awakened, um, you become uh, you become in the light, right? And in a sense, you become more vulnerable, but also you're still protected. You're very much in your element, and the universe wants this for you. That's why this card exists in the deck, is because it's basically saying, like, hey, learn from this, learn from everything, learn from your past, learn from everybody else's past, learn from their mistakes, learn from your past mistakes, and recognize that you're here for a path. This is one road that you get to walk along. And if you're not here to enjoy it, then it's not going to be a very fun ride. Um, as a teacher, judgment's a little hard because it's like karma. It's like literally saying karma is a teacher. So there's probably a lot of, like I said, relationships in your life that are kind of attached to past life experiences that you may not fully grasp or be aware of. It's really important to meditate on those, especially during this time, because it'll give you a little bit more clarity. Um, but personally, I think your relationship with yourself could be a little bit healthier. The sense that I'm getting as a justice person is that it's very hard to be balanced, and that you work very hard, and because of that, you kind of lose the sense of who you are being rather than passively. Um, yeah. Rather than passively experiencing things and allowing yourself to process while experiencing, right? Awakening is a call to finally be able to do that. So I hope that you learn that you are really beautiful, and I hope that you start to see yourself the way that others see you, as someone who is very giving and very charitable and loving. And uh, I hope that you begin to attract those kinds of relationships for yourself by balancing your mental narrative. I think a lot of it for you, especially as a Leo, is accepting that you are good, recognizing that you are capable of being ambitious, but also compassionate, and being, kind of that dad energy. Like, Leo is very big dad energy. It has a lot of, I care about you very intensely, so I'm gonna do these things for you because I love you. But it's very much like, it's intense. It has a very intense energy. So it's I think that the more you can find yourself in situations like that allow you to express your love more authentically, and be able to receive love more authentically, the more you will feel more awakened. And those are your teacher cards. So yeah, you're another person who has three different birth cards. The Justice card being your actual birth card, right? The number 11. And then you've also got the Diviner, intuition, having to learn from your intuition, trusting your gut feelings more. Working with your solar plexus, I think, is really important as a Leo. I don't know how much work you do with your chakras, but it's kind of vital nowadays. You gotta be more aware. So learn about your chakras first of all, if that's some homework you need to do, and second of all, work with your solar plexus chakra because that one for sure is your sunny side. It's mostly about um, how you maintain your level of happiness, how you maintain your joy, your confidence, your optimism, what makes you laugh, what makes you feel blissful, what empowers you. All that stuff is associated with golden yellow radiance, and Leos need that energy. And if you're not radiating that sunlight energy, then you'll have a tendency to be a bit off. Yeah. I'm hoping to be able to offer some maybe chakra workshops or things like that through Zoom sometime soon. I'm kind of feeling out the Twitch side, see how that goes. Um, but I'll drop my Facebook page in case you're interested in sending me a message about getting in touch with me for mentoring services or offering. I offer aura cleansings. I can teach you self Reiki, so I'd be super happy to work with you on that. I am Reiki certified up to two, so I am allowed to teach you how to do Reiki on yourself, and I can do Reiki distance sessions for you if that's something you're interested in experiencing as well. So yeah, let me just drop my Facebook for you, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much for coming by today. It's really cool to have a stranger, um, not necessarily a stranger, but a new friend on my first stream. It's great.